एस्थेटिक एंड ऑप्टिमाइजिंग जो वर्ड डिक्शनरी में आया है मेरे, वो उनसे ही आया हुआ।
Every day I used to see my mom, drawing rangolis at the entrance and celebrating every morning and evening. So that's how I connect myself to the art from the beginning.
आज के माहौल में छोटी छोटी मस्जिदों में एसी अगर लग जाते हैं तो जामा मस्जिद में क्यों एसी ना हो?
मेरे ख्याल से आर्किटेक्चर जो है ना, इट्स ए 50% ब्लेंड ऑफ द इंजीनियरिंग साइड एंड 50% ब्लेंड ऑफ द आर्टिस्टिक माइंड।
अगर कोई चैलेंजेस आ रही है कहीं पे, कन्वेंशनल कोई मेथड हमें कंसिडरेशन नहीं करना है, हमारे पास वैसे फ्रीडम है, सो देयर कैन डू अ मैजिक।
My name is Shivarao Channapattan. I'm a South Indian, belongs to a place called Mysore, but born and brought up in Hubli and Dharwad. So I was born into a very humble, traditional South Indian Brahmin family. So never exposed to art and design from the beginning. So whatever I have seen art in traditional forms. Like Rangoli can be one of the art where every day I used to see my mom, drawing Rangolis at the entrance and celebrating every morning and evening. So that's how I connect myself to the art from the beginning, before I entered into the field of architecture. So it came later. So my childhood around this traditional celebrations and rituals and everything has influenced me from the beginning. It's not that I follow a legacy of architects or designers. So I belongs to a family where everybody is from the medical background. I'm the odd man out. So I'm the only one who selected a different profession altogether compared to what my family is doing. So my journey into art and design or architecture started when, during the childhood, I used to spend a lot of time in celebrating Ganesh festival, because Maharashtra becomes a very border to Karnataka. So celebrating Ganesh festival is like a big thing in our culture. So I used to help my society to build, pandals for Ganesha. So we used to create every year. That was one of the benchmark for us to create something unique. So we really need to bring in a lot of, new creative ideas together as a team. So the team spirit, working in a team environment, everything comes from my childhood. So childhood becomes an incubation for me to get into this field. So the Ganesh festival has always been one of the prerequisite, or the reason to get into architecture. That was my first hands-on experience, and I used to feel so good about it. And I used to work hand in hand with my father also. He was an artist. He used to sketch, he used to draw beautifully. So I have inherited that particular thing, my father. For us, art and architecture is like meditation. You need to really think about it completely as an entire wholesome idea. It's not a piece of art which is been generated in few hours or something like that. There's a lot of contemplation. There is a lot of thought process. There is a complete evolution of design which used to happen. So this is what I have learned from my gurus and mentors. And till date, I am in touch with them, and I look up to them. And now they expect a lot from us also. So taking responsibility, taking ownership, and respecting timeline is what I have understood from my graduation. I don't say that I was an architect from the beginning. No, I was just a learner, and till date I am a learner. So working in CEPT, research and development cell for a longer time, it gave me a lot of opportunity to work on larger scale projects, whether it was Haridwar, Ambaji, even Kevadia. We worked on the larger scale master planning projects, where my hands-on and interior design project or architecture project was far away from me, because my fetish towards urban design was to explore larger scale projects now. Instead of creating one small project, now I was creating a city or a township for someone. So this urge or evolvement, or you can say the evolution of yourself into a larger scale projects, took me to Delhi from Ahmedabad. I spent more than 6-7 years in Delhi working for RCOP, where I interacted and engaged with clients like DLF, Emaar MGF at that point in time, and even the
You
gold
were
developers.
also part of the F1
Exactly.
planning.
And I became one of the lead designer on the F1 track with Hermann Tilke from Germany. And I was also at the same time working on larger scale projects like special economic zone projects, because India was liberalized and there was large scale projects which were coming up. And I became part of Mukesh Ambani's group, where I was leading more than 10,000 hectare projects. So my journey, I generally call it as, connecting dots, which has always given me an overarching view of not only a design at a very specific level, but it has connected so many different aspects of life. For us, space planning is not only a planning which creates a pattern or assembly of things, but it goes beyond that. So eventually I understood that it's all about understanding experience. So experientiality of a space makes more sense rather than creating a space for particular purpose. So how can I create an experience which can remain with the consumers for a longer time? So from architecture to urban design to social sciences, and coming back to Surat and creating our own boutique practice called Atelier DSync, or in short it is called ADS, has always been a platform for a collaborative practice.
So going back, when we approached sir indirectly, directly sir and ma'am, so it was a totally different pattern that we had come across. Usually what we get is that they call us to their office. So they will explain us the whole layout. ये ऐसा आने वाला है, यहाँ ऐसा आने वाला है, this is a passage, this is the space, buffer space, this is this space, and then now you have to plan the AC. So see, that art perspective or the definition of the space that they derive, that defined space makes our job more simplified. Why? Because यहाँ पे ये आने वाला है, यहाँ पे ये आने वाला है. So that defines the detail that they are working since years. So in that detail only we try to incorporate our detail. Okay sir, let us keep the machines over here, that will not hamper your this thing, let us do it over. So they used to explain that this is our important area, this is going to be like this, यहाँ पे couch आएगा, यहाँ पे chairs आएंगी, this will be a semi-covered partition, and then now we have to design an AC. So we love challenges, but explaining कि तुझे कहाँ पे issue आएगा, and again giving away कि तू यहाँ पे रख सकता है, that is more simplified job for us working with them. And as I am again repeating that two words in my dictionary is been derived from Atelier DSync is aesthetics and optimization. तो जो अप्रोच आया है कि कुछ हटके करना है, कि कुछ आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स करना है, कि ये तो क्या है रेगुलर करते रहते हैं, तुझे बुलाया है, तेरे आदमी को नहीं बुलाया, तो you think something apart from this thing, and that is how we landed up doing a lot of things. We have in some sites we have broken the Newton's law. इंडोर नीचे है, डक्ट ऊपर है, हवा सामने आ रहा है. We have also we also designed a space where we had pitched the oval duct at a space, and ma'am and sir were sitting and तुरंत बोल दिया, we are seeing this everywhere. And then I was working one more project where we actually created a custom made duct, and then we introduced that to them and they were happy, and we just showed them the design, and the other moment sir and ma'am said, okay, let's do it. So pitching the idea, they loved the idea and they took forward that idea to the client. See, what happens is in many cases के idea architect को पसंद आता है, but clients neglect or maybe disagree to the point that budget hai or whatever. But with them, whenever it is an artistic approach, they try to incorporate and convince the client on our behalf to know why we should do this, because it is good, it is aesthetically looking, isme logo aayega, you can imprint the color. So that was also one of the closest project that we did, and still till today, whenever somebody goes to the space and I tell them, did you see the AC? नहीं यार, AC तो दिखा नहीं, कहाँ पे था? So I have to tell them that the duct that you see, which is colored and fabric, that is the AC actually. And that was the first commercial space that we did with Sir, and it did not have an element called as ducts. So the artistic approach that he has, he also tries to put in our mind that you have to work in that way.
See, being in this field since last 20 years, exploring around 60-70 countries, working in 10-15 countries, what I have understood, the meaning of aesthetics is it completely depends on individualistic approach. It's very individualistic. And aesthetic appreciation or the value of aesthetics can differ from person to person, because there's a lot of the influence of his or her development or evolution of his or her career also plays an important role in defining the aesthetics, particular to a project or for themselves or a practice. For us, aesthetics comes out of context. Context can be a place or a space or anything. See, without a context, there won't be any aesthetics. Like, for what purpose the aesthetics is meant to be for? Right. I cannot use an aesthetic which is meant for a restaurant to a home. Right? Suppose the aesthetic sense of a place is different. Like, I cannot use Indian aesthetics in Paris unless and until it is a requirement of the client. Like, we saw a lot of Indian restaurants in Paris with Indian touch, right? So whether you call that as an aesthetics which is meaningful enough, or you again question it that it could have been different. Right. So for me, aesthetics is very contextual, and it has to make sense with respect to context, time and space. So Thyme & Whisk is a brand which has already been there in Baroda and Mumbai and elsewhere in India. So when it came to Surat, and one of our very close client, a repeated client who really wanted to take franchisee of Thyme & Whisk, they really wanted to come up with a very nice boutique sort of a restaurant or a fine dine sort of a restaurant within the same format which Thyme & Whisk was offering. So when we met the promoters of the Thyme & Whisk and even the client, the first discussion was, how do you want this to look like, or how do you want this particular center to behave like? So whether you want the same palette to be followed, or can we add our flavors to this particular opportunity which you are offering to us? So they took some time and they said, how can you bring new elements or new aesthetic look to this particular Thyme & Whisk, even though this is going to be the first fine dine sort of a restaurant. So I said, let us take the challenge, and if you like it, then we will go ahead with this. So even our client had a different requirement compared to the standard palettes of what Thyme & Whisk was offering. So we convinced them that let us create a space which is slightly different from your brand, but still it will have its own identity within the palette which you have. So they agreed, and we started working on it. And when we started working on it, the Thyme & Whisk was no different from any other city. It's a small city within a limited space. So one, being a restaurant, it is a public space or a semi-public space where people will come and behave the way they are behaving in public spaces. So you really need to understand the behavior of the end user when you are planning this particular space. So we started with understanding the nature of the flow, the nature of the spaces we need to create, and how can we make this place stand out in comparison to what we have as a benchmark in the city. Because for the first time we were exploring a fine dine or a semi-fine dine sort of a space, and then what kind of elements which we need to add, because it was a west facing facade and there was no connection between the two floors. There was only a small staircase in the center. So when we visited the site and we thought that, how to come up with something new. So we deliberated a lot on the layout first. I think the first 3-4 months was deliberating on the right kind of a space and the layout. The first important thing which came out of this understanding of space was none of the thime and whisk had double height spaces, or none of the thime and disc had a very fine line sort of lighting also, because they were all based on natural light, and even the ACs were split ACs as part of the entire aesthetics of the thime and whisk. And there was a fine line sort of a feel, but we thought that we really need to experiment more on this. So there is a space planning, there is an interior design color palette and the furniture palette, along with we need to integrate this with the services around. So it was a challenge in the beginning. So this was started unfolding when we started creating double height spaces and the space planning within the existing structure. The first and foremost thing what we did was, instead of starting the restaurant in the front, we started creating a courtyard in the center. When you enter, so what you see is a staircase and the courtyard, rather than seeing a restaurant full of people, because somewhere you need to create that sense of aesthetics also. No, it's a fine dine. So people are coming here not only to sit for 5-10 minutes, they will be here for 20-30 odd minutes. So we also need to create a private spaces within the public space also. So these are very small things which are very important.
So while working on this restaurant on the layout phase, there were many challenges. There are very few restaurants which has got a double height at the entry. So this was it. Plus it is a cross southwest facing space, so there is a lot of heat. So both were an initial challenge, and then the other challenge was that they did not want ducts over the table. They wanted cooling over the table, and there was a space above where they had a partition for the thing, and there also they wanted to not bring in the ducts in the center. Why? Because there's always a height restriction. So that is how we managed and designed, by putting up several options, and thanks to sir and ma'am for rejecting a lot of options, that we came up with a very good option. See, our job is to give options, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but then whichever is right for them, we would suggest कि sir ये कर सकते हैं. So sometimes it happens that नहीं कर सकते, but the analogy or the calculation which I have with sir and ma'am, it is always that whatever options I am giving them, 2 or 3 maybe, उसमें से which I want internally, but I don't say that is only been selected. तो equation ही ऐसा हो गया है language का कि I know the requirement now, I know what they want, and I also keep in mind about the requirement of the restaurants, because what happens is I am myself a foodie, so I know the temperature deviates after you have a soup. The temperature also deviates of the body after you have a main course, कि गर्मी लगती है, because there's a hot thing going into your body, so temperature changes, ठंडी गर्मी ठंडी, so that balance. And also if you see the space, there is particular space dedicated, or the vents in layman language has been given to a dedicated table. And also one more thing that we did is we merged 2 machines together, and we did a common duct. So restaurants, what happens in the daytime, there's very low rush, except weekends in our town. So customer does not have to turn on both the ACs. That is how we worked out with an optimization of the AC, के भाई power bill भी कम आना चाहिए, and plus the functionality also should be there with the aesthetic. So over here the engineering was added, the word added was value engineering, कि भाई 2 ही AC में से कॉमन डक करके ही ध्यान रखा है कि बीच की सीलिंग में ना आए, एंड वी हैव गिवन द स्पेस टू द क्लाइंट. तो दिन में वो एक ही AC शुरू रख सकता है, एंड द एयर इज गोइंग इन द एंटायर एरिया. ही इज सेविंग ऑन पावर, he is getting the ambience, he is getting the comfort, he is getting the cooling, and he is saving the cost. So and plus the aesthetic. So ये सब चीज़ों का has to do a lot of brainstorming and a lot of discussion, then only these things come out and the reality of the world.
Exactly. The value engineering, what Sagar is saying, is very important for all the projects, because there is an investment which has been happened on this particular space. So we really need to take care of the energy, because we are always talking about sustainability and everything as a word, but in reality we really need to practice. So as I said earlier also, one is theory and one is application. So start applying the theory from your projects itself, so that in totality it's not only the project which is successful, but as a space also it needs to perform. It's a performance of the space. It's not only aesthetics which we are talking about, it has to go beyond aesthetic sense to take care of all your services and infrastructure. Then you can call it a complete package. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is that aesthetically everything is so beautiful, but in terms of infrastructure it fails. So the building has to perform. So here it's the space. Space is performing as per the peak hour, as per the non-peak hour, everything. And along with the flow, we can definitely, manage all the certain things, but a well-planned scheme is very important.
Functional.
Exactly.
The important word is, you design anything, you do value engineering, but at the end it should function. Because on the layout it looks easy, okay, but while we are executing projects, we know the pinpoints, we know the challenges, height का issue, the POP guy is rigid के मुझे तो ऐसा ही ceiling चाहिए, साहब आप कुछ करो, and then that is how we work out with a lot of options. Because see, somebody has to be flexible, somebody has to take the lead over the road into the MEP, and that is where we come into picture.
Yeah, and in majority of the projects, it's not only the HVAC, we also use a lot of trees. So that also requires moisture. So how will these trees will survive otherwise? So the moisture level, the right amount of natural light is falling into the space or not, right amount of ventilation is happening between the space or not. So all these things are very important to conclude a complete wholesome project together. So it cannot be 90% aesthetics and 10% that. No, it has to balance. We have to bring it on a common platform, and we say that, oh, now we have optimized each and every aspects of this project, now it is ready for handover. So likewise, all the elements come together. Similarly, like how design elements come together, similarly we need to integrate ourselves with the HVACs also. Our experience in Delhi, our experience in Mumbai has always given us opportunity to learn services from the core. We never outsource our services, because we ourselves sit and work out each and every service in coordination with our consultants. We never leave our services to our consultant and say that, "Arey, tu bana de, dekhenge." No, we coordinate with each other, and we come to a common platform that whatever our concerns are there, it is fulfilled at that particular level only before execution. That's how we connected to Jair. We have been working with Jair and especially Sagar for a lot of projects. If we have done 100 projects, I think 80 projects we have done with Sagar. Because Sagar as a person is more flexible, more updated, and he has always been keen to take challenges at any point in time. And we are also ready to throw challenges at him whenever there is a new project. And there is no repeat duct in our project, if you consider from house to a commercial to a corporate office, anything. We have always experimented with services. Designs are not similar. So it's not a set formula, as I said. Aesthetics is again very contextual. Sometimes we face challenges like in Thime and Wiz, the height was the problem. Then we identified that how the ducts can be modified, and achieving the right optimum comfort level in the double space, in a double height space was a challenge. Then we come up with a challenge that how can a circular duct can become one of the aesthetic element which can solve not only our comfort zone issue, but also aesthetically it can become part of our entire design element. So Sagar has always been instrumental in fulfilling our requirement and realizing what exactly we want.
So we'll take a card.